right, welcome back to the live show, already in progress right there following the vice presidential debate. My guest tonight is the Emmy-winning host of All In with Chris Hayes, and he's joining us straight from MSNBC's debate coverage. Please welcome back to The Late Show, Mr. Chris Hayes. All right. Good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
I always like talking to you. You've got
Likewise.
a very clear take on what's happening politically right now.
I tried
a fresh, hot load of politics tonight.
Sure did.
A dump of the politics. You were just over with your MSNBC folks on that panel over there. You have to be up for things like that, right? You have to go live for nights like this. We choose to be live on nights like this.
Yes.
Was tonight worth being live for? Could I have gotten more sleep than this? Because I was waiting for a little more fisticuffs up there.
It was a fairly low-key affair, I agree with you, particularly compared to that first, well, both debates. I mean, the first Biden-Trump debate was the most
I had myself sedated halfway through that debate.
Well, and
I think Joe Biden did too.
Well, that was the most consequential debate in American history.
Right.
The Kamala Harris and Donald Trump debate was incredibly compelling and dynamic.
Right. We can't really compare this to that.
Exactly.
That was one of the best and worst performances I've ever seen.
That's right. Yeah, we've hit both parts of the bell curve. So
Sure, exactly.
This was more in the middle.
Okay.
There was a lot that I thought was interesting. I mean, I think that, look, Vance is a smooth talker and very sort of, he's kind of relaxed and deft in that kind of environment.
Sure.
Walz was so clearly very nervous, which I always find very endearing and human.
Sure.
When you can hear that little constriction in the throat. Yeah. Kamala Harris's first answer in that last debate was the same way. You could just hear it. Mm-hmm. But I think ultimately, on the sort of last exchange about the 2020 election, and particularly on some real meat and potatoes things, particularly on healthcare, I think Walz did a really, really good job on sort of driving the key themes of the campaign.
And some of his answers on January 6th, too.
Yeah, I thought that was the moment.
Did you guys come up over there? Just give me, so I don't have to, I'm sure I've T-voted it, but what did you guys say who won? Did you guys come up with an answer?
I think Walz won. I mean, I really do think he won. And
Do you think they're saying that on Fox?
What's that?
Or do you think they're saying that on Fox? Because
no, there's no way. No, of course not.
Because after the Harris-Trump debate, they were even like, she cleaned his clock.
No, I think you can make an argument for each. I think it was fairly close. I would have said up until that back half of the show, there was one commercial break. It was after that commercial break that they did the long healthcare exchange. They also did something, if I'm not mistaken, on guns, and then they did something on 2020. And I thought that Walz was at his best in that period. And I do think the moment where he turns to him and says, "Who won the 2020 election?"
Okay.
And Vance, who so far has done a very good job of not coming off like a too smooth dude, says, "I'm going to look forward, not back." It's like, buddy.
Sure. He wouldn't answer that directly.
No.
Don't you think it's weird that that's a question in the debate rather than a prerequisite for being allowed on stage?
Yes.
You have to admit that we live in a democracy and that there are results from elections that you have to abide by.
Yes. My colleague Lawrence O'Donnell said he's the first vice presidential nominee in American history who doesn't know who won the last election. Which I think is a fair point. I think I think it's fair to say every single other one has known the answer to that question.
Okay, so part of the rules were, it wasn't CBS's idea, it wasn't any of the journalists' idea, but the rules were there could be no fact checks.
Correct.
Okay, what do you make of that rule? Do you think that's the right way to go? And what would you have wanted to fact check?
Well, I wouldn't want to do that, but I'm not negotiating for the campaigns. I mean, I understand why the Trump-Vance people don't want there to be fact checks. They like to say false stuff, and in fact, it's not just incidental or accidental. They intentionally say false things so as to produce a sort of fear reaction in the people they're talking to. So, that's the reason to do it. There's a few things. I mean, I will say, I think your colleagues at CBS did a very good job on that exchange about immigration, where, as a point of clarification, they were just like, these people have legal status called temporary protected status.
Right.
J.D. Vance was like, you said you wouldn't fact check me. And then started trying to bulldoze them, and then he cut his mic, that moment that you just played.
Yeah, that was delicious.
That was pretty good. Yeah. It is funny to hear the the mic go out and
It's like the candidates are falling down a deep well.
exactly. No, I'm saying so. So I thought that was a pretty good moment. There's a bunch of stuff. First of all, the most sort of audacious lie that J.D. Vance told was that, ready for this one? Donald Trump saved Obamacare. I did not misspeak.
Yes.
He said that in a bipartisan fashion, Donald Trump saved Obamacare. Yes. I was like, what on earth?
Yes.
The man tried to kill it twice. He only failed because John McCain famously did this. He's been smarting about it ever since. They're plotting for how they could repeal it or they could unwind it.
Well, they have to destroy the village to save the village.
Exactly right. I did think that was also one of those sort of bits of gaslighting so audacious, you begin to kind of implant retroactive suspicion in the audience for everything else he said.
Right.
Like, we were all there. You know, like people know,
Right.
even people who are not super tuned into politics, like I think know that that's nonsense.
Right. Everybody remembers McCain doing that.
Yeah, it was a big moment.
Yeah, exactly.
So that, and then the other thing that drives me a little crazy, just to fact check, is they have this monomaniacal obsession. Whenever they get a question about cost, Trump does this too, they basically do Sarah Palin 2008 Drill Baby Drill. And it's almost to the point of absurdity. Like I saw Trump get a question on Fox from a guy who was like, my kid's rent is too high. And he's like, what's the answer? And Trump's like, drill, baby, drill. It's like, well, I don't think that's really gonna work. Mm-hmm. And the thing
the kid is renting an apartment on top of a shale field.
Exactly.
So it's gonna be okay.
Exactly.
We have to take a quick break here.
Let's do it.
But don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more Chris Hayes.